noisy ass mufflers. Sorry about that, y'all. We are live. Welcome to a new Bonnet Chronicles. I know it's going to take some of you some time to get in. I just put the announcement on Twitter that we are live. But I am going to get started because I am fired up today. There has been a lot of fuckery. And I am fired up about it because there are a lot of people trying to control the narrative, trying to make things about what they want over the needs of everybody. And we are going to get down to the talks about entitlement, self-esteem issues, and self-reflection. We're also going to talk about this aspirin idea that Twitter seems to have that wants to start a paid subscription model for followers, which we have YouTube, we have Patreon, we have sites that are devoted to people who actually put out content for money. Twitter is not that. Twitter is just a place where people can share opinions and ideas. My overly opinionated ass has made Twitter my home. I do not feel that people should be utilizing it to make coins. And I know I have friends who have stated different because they understand they're artists. They understand the hustle. The need for the hustle, I do not disrespect that. Hello, honey. And yes, using me for so you and your jokes. No, seriously though, I understand the need to make coin, especially in this day and age. What I'm saying is that Twitter, the place where tweets disappear if you're trying to read them, is not the place that we need more cloud chasing crackheads honing their grifting craft. I say this as somebody who puts my vlogs exclusively on Twitter because it's the 2-minute format and I don't feel like creating a TikTok. I'm old. I don't want a whole bunch of accounts. People have suggested Instagram to me, don't want it. People have suggested TikTok to me, don't want it. I'm old. I don't like remembering my logins as it is. So I do this show on Twitch because I had a Twitch account anyway, and I do my vlogs on Twitter because it limits me to 2 minutes. I can say what I want to say. It's always free flow, just like these Bonnet Chronicles. The only thing I do for the Bonnet Chronicles is I make pinpoint topics that I want to try to hit each week. I don't always succeed because sometimes I can go on a tangent. That's what you get when you get free flow. In my vlogs, some days I have really good flow, some days it's just whatever I feel like ranting about. Today I was fired up, and with good reason, because there are a lot of very entitled, self-absorbed people who are chafing my pragmatic ass, and I need to explain to people what pragmatism is, because some of y'all like to try to fake that, and I'm going to tell you that if you're pushing that the Democrats got to shut down everything to get the thing that you want, you're not pragmatic. Point blank, period. And if you're coming at me trying to tell me that black people are immovable, we don't want our politicians to budge on issues, history says you're wrong. But I'm going to get to that and so much tonight, including more thoughts on this weird subscription thing that Twitter might try to roll out. I think a lot of people have given the vibe that we're not feeling this, but it's not up to us. If somebody at Twitter HQ thinks this is a good idea, just like all the other aspirin things they have rolled out, which we haven't liked function-wise, except the edit button, this is going to be our life. And we're going to have to decide whether or not we want to follow somebody who wants to put out paid content for tweeting out whatever bullshit. I'm telling you right now, I will not have super followers. I don't care how many people follow me. I don't use Twitter to get money. That's not what Twitter is for me. I had to ask for help last year, and it was humbling how many people came out their pockets to help me get my mother out of my house so that I wasn't stressing myself to suicide. You guys helped me so much in the time of need. I would feel weird telling you, oh, if you want to hear more of my opinion, join the subscription model. That shit's whack. It ain't going to be me, man. It's bad enough that I do have my PayPal Me account in my profile. And I've debated taking it out, but every time I've made it disappear, people have hit me up in DM saying, I want to send you something. What's your PayPal link? Why'd you take it out of your profile? I literally have people who have yelled at me because I've taken it out because they feel that, every once in a while I say something, I help them out, I inspire them with a lot of the stuff that I do, and they want to send a gift for that. So I've left it in. But I do not ask people for stuff because I don't feel right doing that. My house will be taken care of. Axie can attest to you. My bills get paid because I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I was raised with that mentality that I have to make sure that my home is taken care of above anything else. Before getting stuff for myself, I will make sure that my kid has a roof over his head, food in his belly. That was just how I was taught. So anything extra is always put towards those things, and it's appreciated, but I don't ask for it. I'm doing these Bonnet Chronicles not to be famous from it, but because I feel the need to speak on these issues. And that is why I'm excited about this announcement coming up. I decided after, people are going to laugh at me for this, but I'm a huge Marvel fan. And I watched the latest episode of WandaVision, and I watched last week's episode, and I'm not going to give spoilers. But most of the people who are on social media understand that Wanda is the Scarlet Witch. And a lot of the lore that is starting to be shown in the show is going to be Hollywood's version of witchcraft. And as somebody who calls myself a witch, even though the religion I actually practice is more tribalized shamanism, which, as you've seen in last month's fuckery, how some people co-opt shamanism for the wrong purposes, I feel like as somebody who, this is my faith, and I don't see a lot of people online really speaking on what it is and the differences between what it really is and Hollywood's portrayal, that I want to start doing a series, and I'm going to do it for YouTube, on what the craft is, what shamanism is, how it has been throughout history, how it has been utilized, twisted, and reviled, and how people from every ethnic background has some form of it. So, no, YouTube, dear. And I'm excited because it's something that I've always wanted to talk about. It's something that people have hit me up in my private chat over because people are curious. They want to know how to... Boy, you stop it. They want to know how to approach it. And I feel like I can give you what works for me and key elements of stuff from our past that will help you make a decision on whether or not this is a path for you faith-wise. So I'm very excited about that. Unlike the Bonnet Chronicles, it's not going to be live because I will be pulling information and showing different cultural things from A to Z on the different historical and modern views of this faith. So be on the lookout for that. It will be under my Kalari C YouTube, which I upload these Bonnet Chronicles to as well. But I'm still working on the title for it. And Saturday, I will have an official announcement and an introduction to what the show is going to be about. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow afternoon. I plan on having a full, detailed announcement on what it's going to be about, and I'm excited. But getting back to the Bonnet Chronicles, where to start? I honestly am tired of being angry. I said that in the vlog a couple of days ago too. I am in this weird in-between space where I know that we won. I know all the organizing that we did, making sure that the people around us voting, canvassing if we could, phone banking because it was safer, making sure people got out to vote paid off. but I also feel like I can't let my guard down and I'm exhausted. I'm not angry, I'm freaking tired when I think on that. No, the thing that makes me angry is the influx of entitlement that I'm seeing from people right now when we've only had this new administration for a freaking month. It has only been a month and what is today is the 26th. So a month and 6 days since Joe Biden got sworn in, and y'all are already expecting him to undo 4 years of Trump's fuckery and give you all the unicorns and ponies that he didn't promise your asses in the first place. And the people who are doing this, y'all couldn't even muster past 13% for the person that you swore would have beaten Trump had everybody else backed him. But you're telling us that your non-voting ass gets to tell us how to pass legislation and who should wait for what? That is not going to fly. And yes, Turtle Run, and thank you. They do have a lot of smoke for Joe without understanding that there is a system of checks and balances that they teach you in basic civics. That our president does not have absolute power. Because if our president had absolute power, we would have been fucked even last year with that dummy that used to be in charge before we fired him. They are exhausting, Brandon. Hey, Rick Mutt, I'm seriously, it's only been 36 days, Rick and Mutt, and they are ridiculous. And the thing that bothers me about it is, once again, they try to play hostage negotiation with their non-existent votes. They utilize, especially the blue checkmark ones, stuff like I need to be wowed off my couch to participate in the upcoming 2022 elections, but they're the same ones that will fix their face when things go to shit again to say, vote black women, save us. I am exhausted by the entitlement because these are the type of people who have never had to fight for a damn thing in their life. And that's why I had to make clear this morning in my message. I have lived on this earth almost 44 years this year. I have never once believed that only one issue is more important than others. I've never had the luxury of pushing for something that only sees what I need. I realize that the only way to get actual progress is if it helps everybody, not just what would directly affect me. And that's what pragmatism is. And I feel like there are a lot of people who try to fake that on social media. They try to say, oh no, I'm pragmatic, I care. I put BLM in my handle. But will silence a black voice the moment we disagree with whatever personal issue you think the president is supposed to handle like he's your genie. That is not how this works. Biden can't just roll in saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and you're going to get behind me. We have a system of checks and balances for a reason. And despite other things from our past with the government not working, I will always be behind checks and balances because if one faction gets out of line like our Senate did for a long time, we have the House to check them, we have the White House to check them, and vice versa. Nancy Pelosi is the one fucking force we had stopping Trump from going complete scorched earth on our freaking country. And some of y'all need to put respect on her name. Because we would have been in dire straits had we not had that house in her capable hands. Because we sure as hell don't have a decent Senate. As you can see from Mitch McConnell's dumbass going on Fox News talking about, I would support Donald Trump in 2024. The dude has tanked any credibility that your party has had. Some of us been knew that the GOP wasn't shit. But Donald Trump, I will give this silver lining about his presidency. It helped a lot of you people who tried to act like there was two sides and they were both the same see that shit ain't true, if you're honest. Donald Trump was a bullhorn to all the bullshit that we already knew about the GOP. So I will say this. Thank him for that, because that's the only thing I can thank that motherfucker for. And I'm glad he's gone. And I hope Tish James, who has his tax returns, gets his ass. Get him, Tish. I got your back, girl. I am just so frustrated that people don't get basic civics, that they don't understand that, yes, we finally do have the House and Senate, but even with the 50-50 split, which it is for our Senate, we do not have the numbers to constantly push things through. And we have to be mindful of the politicians that we are forcing the ideals that might work in our state that won't work for their state. I don't think people understand that every state is freaking different. And they have to navigate good old boy politics in the South, rural mentality in the Midwest, and this so-called elitist mentality on the East and West Coast. That I want to get something straight that I made clear to a friend yesterday when we had a very fun and enriching conversation on the phone. A lot of you assume stuff about states based on them being city or country, rural or urban. I am from New York. I am from probably what is known as the most racist borough in New York, Staten Island. Fight me if you want. And they are as red as any Southern Dixiecrat. And it's full of Italian people, so make that make sense. But these motherfuckers will vote for a Republican because they feel in their Catholic eyes, and I have Catholic family, so trust me, I'm not coming off a weird generalization. They're all conservative. They feel that Republicans are the moral majority and somehow closer to God, even though these are the most amoral idiots I've ever seen in my entire existence. So stop with the whole red state, blue state. A lot of states have complex systems where people make compromises because not all of us are alike. We are a melting pot of different ideals, different cultures, and different blends. And people who want to be our voices have to navigate that. One misstep could end the political career of somebody who would give us a shot at actual progress towards a person like Ted Cruz, who is a fucking shitweasel moron. So I need you to be pragmatic. Don't just say you're pragmatic. Understand what people have to navigate, where they are, what kind of support system they have. Yeah, you can go after people like Manchin. I don't give him the benefit of the doubt anymore, especially after the connection that was made between his daughter, Miss EpiPen Thief, as I'm going to call her, the same shit that that little asshole is sitting in jail behind, that farmer bro idiot. She got off with 19 million price gouging the EpiPen. As somebody who has deadly seafood and iodine allergies, fuck Joe Manchin. Fuck Joe Manchin and fuck his daughter too. West Virginia deserves better, but we don't have that right now. We do not have a career politician, male or female, that can primary that man and fucking win right now because we don't have the people on the ground canvassing, getting people in West Virginia to realize that they need better. And we can't afford for somebody worse than Manchin to take that spot yet. So unless you plan on getting your ass down to West Virginia and running or finding somebody that can do the job that he does, I suggest you have a cup of shut the fuck up about what Joe Manchin can or cannot do. Because once again, different states have different ways they have to navigate this political sphere. And checks and balances prevent us from getting our cake just because we want a certain flavor. And I can't believe that I have to explain this to grown people, but here we are. I guess not all of us grew up on Schoolhouse Rocks and understand the basic civics of it all. What I don't like is that people are trying to shut down the COVID relief bill because of the $15 minimum wage increase. I say this as somebody who has worked retail and who has worked corporate. I believe in the rise of the minimum wage. I also believe in reparations. So I'm going to go on a tangent about that in a little bit too. But what I believe is that we have a lot of people about to get evicted, about to have power shut off, barely scraping by, no food, standing in food lines if they can, hit by weather disasters in several states, Some that could handle bad weather, some that couldn't, like Texas. They need immediate relief. This COVID bill is supposed to provide the immediate relief that we didn't have for over a year with Trump as president. We had to wait months between stimulus, and it was fucking pennies tossed at us for years, for a full year of not having stable income for some of us. So when I say that I can wait for the $15 an hour, I'm not saying that as some elitist that has it good. I'm saying that as a mom who doesn't want my fucking power shut off because I'm scraping by just to keep my bills fucking paid. I'm saying it for the people who aren't even in that kind of fortunate situation, who are literally facing eviction right now because they have been behind because they can't make money right now. You claim to be doing this because you care about poor people. If you gave a fuck about poor people, you know that poor people right now need instant relief. And this bill, this $1.9 trillion bill, will get people money that they need right now. Even if they pass the $15 per hour wage increase, each state would still have probably years to fully implement it, because it's not just a simple, oh, we'll just give everybody $15 an hour. You have to adjust payrolls, you have to adjust budgets, you have to adjust prices around the whole entire city to this new influx of capital without making you fall asleep with basic economics, because I know some of you didn't go to school for that. I happen to. When you increase wages in certain areas that are built off a certain model, you can destabilize whole ass cities with this. And I'm not being hyperbolic. The amount of rent that I paid for a 2-bedroom townhouse in Durham, I would have paid quadruple in New York because of cost of living differences. That is the stuff you have to figure out when you change the wage for people. Because you just arbitrarily change it to $15 a month. What happens to the companies that don't immediately go to that, yet the town decides, well, it's $15 a month now, we need the rent increase on people? I need you to understand basic economics, and people are just not getting stuff like this. And it's because of entitlement. And like I said earlier, and hey, Deacon, and a few of my friends agree, we need Schoolhouse Rock back. They have reused so many old IPs. We have seen that stuff from the past can be refurbished with Marvel once again. Not just WandaVision, but the whole MCU. People can take stuff that's already been out there and give it a new flavor. We have a bunch of brilliant musicians that can sing about basic civics, legislation, economics. We need Schoolhouse Rock back, and this is a hill that I am willing to die on, because too many of y'all don't understand the basics. Too many of you think, because I want it, it should happen. That's not how life works. And maybe I am fortunate to have lived my life as a black woman to understand that that's not how life works. But it's just vexing to me how many young black people who want to be liked, who want to be the pick me's, want to jump on the bandwagon of, oh, the Dems should do. And it's not just the Dems. You do realize that there are a whole Senate and House full of Republican legislators who are fucking getting the slack off and not taking any of the blame for stuff not getting done. And that shit needs to be nipped in the bud. And the one way we could end their nonsense and really get them motivated to do their job, some of you don't want to participate in. Because voting is hard, I guess. And we have shown, especially last year, that most states have absentee ballots, and because of the pandemic, they will probably continue absentee and mail-in ballot measures. So the only excuse you have to not vote, outside being gerrymandered and dealing with voter suppression laws, which they are trying to push in the South, is you're fucking lazy. And if you don't cast a ballot in the next state local elections in your area, I don't want to hear fuck you have to say about any pet peeve legislation that you want to get pushed. Because if you're not willing to personally invest with your votes, you don't get to dictate what legislators do. They don't have to give a fuck about you because they know you don't vote. I can call my legislator. I call Axiom can confirm. I've called Debbie Stadnow's office. I have called Vanessa Guerrero's office when I've needed help. They have reached out and they have helped me. Why? Well, A, because that's what they do. That is their whole job and they love doing it. But B, they know Miss Walker's calling. No matter what, she votes. I don't want to be rude to my constituent who actually cast the ballot. And it was the same in North Carolina. I'm still getting invited to town halls in North Carolina. I have told my old district representative, Representative Price, I don't live there no more, man. Still get emails, still get invites to join his town halls because I am passionate about who reflects my voice. I was taught that by my grandmother. One of the things she said to me as a child is you got to vote because they don't want us to have that little bit of power. Don't give that power away. And I see so many people waste that opportunity. And it's the same people that make these shitty demands and act like the president can just do whatever the heck they want because of your feels. It is the most important thing we can do. It puts the people in that will listen to your needs. You want all these big things, but you're not willing to do the work to get the person that can make it happen. That was my biggest problem with Bernie brats. Honestly, outside the fact that they were backing the misogynistic, racist old idiot, and I'm saying it, I don't care, fight me. The fact of the matter is, y'all harassed us, telling us we were going to bend at the knees, talking about burn your bus, and you didn't even turn out for him. I seen those exit polls. Those numbers were abysmal. I think the best he did in some states was 24%. 24% turnout, and you're going to try to convince me that that motherfucker would have beat Donald Trump. Bullshit. Bull ass, straight up, pure grade horse hockey. Y'all think we're stupid. But let me tell you something about black people like me. I can't speak for all black people, but I know enough black people like me who know the real. We know who got our back, who might not be as cool as we want them to be. Because let's say this about Joe. I like Joe Biden, but he reminds me of every old uncle you have that's cool. You could get $50 off of him on your birthday, but he gonna say some stupid shit sometimes because he's a product of that generation. Joe Biden irked me on the primary tour. I made it clear that he was not my first, second, or even third pick. But when it came down to backing him, when he got that nomination, I was all in because I knew he would do the least harm to my community and he would open that door and open his ears and open his heart to listen to what we need. And for people who are marginalized, whether we are black, LGBT, POC, atheist, or religion that isn't Christian, we need representation. We need somebody who's going to at least try to get us a seat at the table. And this administration is openly setting up the table for us to sit at. And that's what scares the people who don't want to share power. And the one thing I don't want to see people do after the hard fought victory that we had to get Joe Biden as president and Kamala Harris as our VP, to get Senator Ralph Warnock and John Ossoff as our Georgia legislator and getting the power out of Mitch McConnell's Sith hands, is to get lazy and apathetic and end up giving McConnell all that power back to fuck us all over. Because we've seen what 4 years of that gets us. Over 500,000 dead Americans. People struggling through a pandemic that didn't have to be this bad. Constant just trying to struggle through things that normal presidencies could get us through. Disaster relief not coming to islands that have been struggling since Hurricane Maria. The stuff that's going on in Texas, had it gone on under Trump, people would still be suffering. And if you don't believe me on that, we've had natural disasters under many presidents. But it feels to be every time we've had a conservative president, it has been handled in just about the worst way. Maybe I'm generalizing, but I remember Katrina. I will never forget some of the shit that went on that the news didn't and should have reported on. Like people being freaking systemically murdered on a bridge. The shit that people don't talk about. And we'll probably find out years later in an episode of an HBO series like y'all found out about the Tulsa Massacre. Because people don't want to talk about the shit that goes down under conservative rule when it comes to natural disasters. It is just so frustrating, y'all, to see what we can do when we organize, when we get those victories, and then watch people around us who don't have to fight to vote, who never had to stand in line for hours just to cast a ballot, who doesn't have local legislators trying their damnedest to make sure that you don't have ease of access voting, even if you're disabled. Just say, I don't feel like voting. I can't be wild off my couch. Y'all fucking vex me. Y'all vex me because you can never know what it means to somebody like me who is willing to risk it, to make sure my vote is cast. Because I know if I don't do anything, my inaction is just as bad as those who vote for hateful people. Y'all need to understand that if you stay home during your state and local election and shit don't get passed, that's not the fault of the people who are already elected. They do the best they can with what they have. If they cannot get a majority, bills cannot be passed. If they cannot get a majority, laws cannot be legislated. And if they're a waste of space like certain squad members, they're not even trying to draft legislation. They're too busy having Twitter feuds. We have got to wake up. We have got to keep personally invested in politics. Even if you make a minimum investment of just casting a ballot, you are doing more to help progress than those who are like, don't matter. I don't feel like doing it. I can't be wild. They're not going to listen to me anyway. How are people supposed to listen to you if you don't even use your voice? Your voice is your ballot. It's that simple. I'm not spitting anything profound. This is just basic, man. And exactly, I don't know any. Welcome to the chat, Brenda, but I don't know any that I can think of off the top of my head of recent. And I've lived under several presidents now that has handled any kind of crisis in a humane way. My first real memory of politics was not Donald Trump, oh God, Freudian slip, but basically the same thing. Ronald Reagan calling the AIDS crisis a moral issue. He reduced the lives of people dying to something that God did to punish them. And I never forgot how sick to my stomach I felt hearing that. I grew up in New York. I remember those mass graves. That is why it hit me hard with my fucking family last year were put in those same mass graves because they didn't know if COVID lingered on the body. And my family, unfortunately, being black and older in New York and in old folks' homes, didn't get the proper care. So they're in those fucking mass graves right now. We couldn't have proper funerals for them. I need people to understand that took me all the way back to my childhood, remembering the same mass graves for LGBT members who died of AIDS. And that, once again, was a conservative administration because they turned our reality, our lives, into some kind of moral crusade, that us versus them. And we're always the them that they're taught are just evil and we deserve all the bad that happens to us. And you want me to just sit home and let these people continue to have power? Are you kidding me? They're willing to see us dead in mass graves. They're the ones who last year said that your grandparents can afford to get Rona and die for the economy. They're the ones who threatened my fucking governor because she dared put us on lockdown and said wear a fucking mask. These are the people that you want me to sit home and allow to run shit? Really? Come on, y'all. You should know better. And this is why I get so mad at people who act apathetic towards the one civic duty that you can utilize to help all of us, yet claim that you're for progress, yet put BLM and shit like defund the police in your bio. You swear you cried tears for Brianna and Elijah and Ahmaud Arbery and every single fucking name that we have lost for years to police brutality and racism. Y'all swear you give a fuck about us. But you won't do the one thing that could really help us by getting somebody in that will pass the legislation to revamp the way police spend money, demilitarize the police, because police shouldn't be rolling up in tanks. Our homes are not a war zone. Policemen should not even be handling wellness checks for mental health patients. One of the things that my mom threatened me with last year was a police wellness check because she knows what could happen with that. That's how psycho it is. I had to live in fear of my life from a fucking wellness check. Police officers shouldn't be handling wellness check for mental illness, y'all. But that is a fucking reality. That somebody who is a miserable person can use that as a threat on my fucking life. Yes, honey, on my birthday. He still has the text. It's sick. But you claim, and I'm not saying you guys in the chat, but these people who love to put BLM in their bio and claim it for progress, that y'all give a fuck about that as you yell defund the police instead of realizing that we still need police. Crime isn't going to disappear. But we need to make sure that the police aren't handling things that they shouldn't be handling, and that they are accountable when they use their position to murder people, to commit crime. It's funny that police who commit extortion or money crimes, they get thrown in jail. There's a whole ethics board to go against people like this. But a police officer could literally walk up into my house tonight, blow my brains out, and get away with it. I don't even like my son going out right now. Not even because of the pandemic, but because he could be out in his hoodie just minding his own business and get killed. No one should have to fucking live like that. But to have somebody in office that understands that, I have to vote for that person. I know I can contact Governor Whitmer's office here in Michigan with my concerns and be heard. There's no way I could do that with that weirdo who wants to try to take her job in the next election, talking about I need to cancel Black History Month. That nigga needs to, and I hate using that N word, sorry, but I was so angry that it slipped out. I don't like that word. But he pisses me off because he's the epitome of that. That fucking idiot shucking and jiving for these people who don't care about him and won't vote for him anyway. But he seems to think that coming out, dog whistling, not even the bullhorning racism will get his black ass Governor Whitmer's job. This is the fringe lunacy that we have to keep an eye on. Because if I decide, Whitmer will be safe, I'm not going to worry about it. That idiot could get in and be our governor. Not happening on my watch. And let me tell you, we have one of them little squad members here too, in the district very close to me, who I'm keeping an eye on because she needs to go too. Little Miss Boo. Yeah, I got Boo for you too. You about to lose your job, hun. We're going to find somebody to primary you, even if it has to be me. I'm not joking with this, y'all. I am over it. Everybody wants so many things because we have this instant gratification crowd. And we have men like Bernie Sanders who finesse people like this. And we have men like Talcum X or as I call him, crooked T. Washington scam, that love to play the grift of politicians should just be able to do what you want. You want free college? You should get it. You want free healthcare? You should get it. They don't think about regulations. They don't think about cost. They don't think about the difference in each state. They only want what they want, and they preach to people who can't think outside that. And it's just so fucking frustrating that you don't understand that this ain't how the world works, because your mommy and daddy pat you on the forehead no matter what you do. The gold sticker generation are not real. They don't understand realities of life. They don't understand that you don't always get what you want. And that compromise is the best path for everybody. And that the progress that you take for granted, marriage equality, civil rights in itself, the women's movement, being able to vote in the first fucking place, people died for that right. And not just black people. Women were beaten for the right to vote, thrown in jail, harassed, threatened. People hung in trees for daring to exercise their right to vote. LGBT, fire hoses turned on them, disappeared, thrown in jail for their orientation. The shit you take for granted, people had to pay with blood for. I need you to remember this as you talk about how great things are and how things should just be. It wasn't always like that. And there are people hell bent on taking us back to those days quick like. So you need to be wary, because I'm tired of seeing people have to march for our rights to be viewed as human beings. I want us to get to where we supposed to be, where Star Trek had me believing we would be as a little girl. We are in the year 2021 and we're still fighting each other over things like looks, beliefs, gender identity, sexual orientation. If humanity could get over this need to fucking be right all the time and accept that we have differences and that we need to navigate and compromise, fuck, we could get to places. But people just don't get it. And I love that, Deacon. I believe so too. I honestly believe that our elders had so much wisdom because they went through so much, and people take for granted. We're not that far removed from the civil rights movement. A lot of people like to believe that it happened like 400 years ago. My grandparents marched in that shit. My grandfather on my father's side served in World War II. He fought fascism to come back to Jim Crow. A decorated soldier couldn't sit in the front of the fucking bus with white people. So don't you tell me that it's that far removed. I don't have to go that far back to link myself to blatant acts of racism in this country, and not too many of y'all can, whether you can link yourself to the oppressed or the oppressors. And it's not my fault you might feel a little bit shamed by your kin. But you know how you distance yourself from that shame? It's not by denying what happens, it's by being better than it. And some of you need to hear that. Because maybe then you can work on being better people. You don't have to feel responsible for your ancestors. But if you're not actively doing stuff to make things better for everybody, you're no better than them in my eyes. The only way we're going to have progress is to constantly work on ourselves. That is another thing that I will be talking about in the series that I do on my faith in paganism, because I think people need to understand that spirituality for me is constantly learning, especially about yourself, especially discarding things from your past that held you back, that you did wrong, admitting that you get shit wrong, and understanding the past so that you don't repeat it in the present and future. It is all connected. And too many people don't get this, and it's obvious as you tweet this entitled attitude that your political pet peeve is more important than your fellow Americans hungry, damn near homeless, and struggling. Yet you claim to care. I understand that frontline workers and especially fast food and retail workers are essential. Y'all learned that last year. All the people that you want to go, why they deserve $15 an hour and shit on their jobs without realizing that people who get out to work deserve respect. People who can't work because of their disability deserve respect. Just respecting human beings is not hard, y'all. But some of you want to look down on others because that's the only power you have in life. Oh, I'm better than this person. This is where I work. How dare you? There are people out there that work at McDonald's that also go home, take care of their kids, take care of their house, take care of other people's kids, take care of their parents. You don't know what a person's life is like. And that extra money would help them. But I guarantee you right now that if they knew that you were holding up guaranteed stimulus money that they could use right now to pay their bills because you care about what they make per hour, they'll curse your ass out. Because I was a retail worker and I'm ready to curse your ass out. You have to understand that you don't speak for me. Stop using me as your cudgel. Stop using me as your shield. Because you obviously don't care whether or not I survive or people like me survive. You just want to use me to get in whatever free shit you're pushing for. I went to school. I paid off all my stuff. I had the opportunity to do it with the way I went. I know everybody's not that lucky because they take out loans and investments in their future, believing that a piece of paper like a degree will automatically open doors without realizing the reality is, even with a degree, we have to deal with different people's prejudice and not just against skin color, against gender. Women overwhelmingly go to college and go for degrees and still have to fight sexism, especially black women. We are the most highly educated demographic, yet I know when I put my name on a resume, I am more likely to be rejected just because of it, because it's ethnic. That is a reality that I've dealt with all my fucking life. And you're going to tell me that I need to put your option to put yourself in debt because you had stars in your eyes that a degree was going to make you millions over the reality that we need instant relief. No, not going to happen. I wanted to go back to school for animation. I am a storyteller. I write. I wrote my first book. I am hopefully going to have that out soon. My editor has been a sweetheart, and we're hoping by the summer to have a big announcement. But it takes time. It took me years just to get the first book written. That's a reality for me. But I also love to draw and I love animation. And I thought, maybe I'll go back to school for it. Let me get a price quote. I hung up on the person. They quoted me $194,000 in tuition. Who the hell got that kind of money to draw cartoons? Nope. Just like I'm learning German and other languages, I'll probably self-teach as much as I can animation because college is a racket, y'all. That price, I couldn't hang up on that recruiter fast enough. That was way too much money to be talking about getting a degree that I might not even fully utilize, just like the degree that I got that I don't fully utilize. And I wish I hadn't flaked out and just went and got my CPA, but college is a lot of pressure. And back then, I didn't realize that I had a mental illness. I was in denial about it. So the pressure just got to me, and I couldn't handle school the way I used to. And I admit that about myself because there's no shame in that. But I often think of how different my life would have been had I finally pushed and got that CPA. And, I'm really not into accounting. I always wanted to write, and my dream job as a child was archaeology. But I had the kind of family that was like, you never get money in that, and being black archaeologist, you'll never get far, and all that other bull crap to discourage me. And I really regret letting that intake because I would have gotten a start earlier in life. I was writing stories since I was 6 years old. Doing this now for a living is both scary and exciting for me because I have to fight that negativity that was instilled in me that, oh, it won't work out for you. It's a fucking mess, y'all, but I'm fighting it because I know it's not true. The thing is, I don't have that entitlement, and maybe it's unfair to some of y'all, but I'm kind of grateful for it because it makes me able to deal with reality. It makes me able to take a loss if something doesn't work out and realize it's not the end of the world. It makes me able to understand that sometimes you lose out on stuff, but you can rebuild and never give up. The only way you truly lose in life is when you give up the fight. I honestly think people have to understand that when you want something, it might not happen automatically. It might not happen instantly. But when you put that focus on it, when you want something bad enough, you can make it happen. I made writing a sci-fi novel happen despite so many people who, like me, went through that phase where I want to be a writer and then spent years just not doing it. Stories all in my head, but I couldn't keep the focus to get it done. And finally I said, you know what? I want to do this. I want to at least get the story out of my head, written out, and I got it done. Will it be a success? Who knows? I didn't care. I just wanted the shit out of my head. I'm going to be 100% real with you. And I've got more in my head that I need to write out as well. That's all I want to do is get the stories that I've conjured in my mind onto paper. And if people like it, great. If you don't, who cares? At least I've done it. That's my whole motivation for anything. When I want to get something done, just do it. If it works out, great. If it don't, you know. But some of you go through life thinking that things are just supposed to magically happen for you, and it really is. It really is, Deacon. I cried. I don't understand it, but just having that last sentence type, everything came out. It was like the way I felt when I finally realized that I was free of a bad situation from 10 years ago. Just that freedom that I did this, it's done. Oh my God. I literally bawled like a baby. I bawled like I did when I had my son. And I think every person who has created, whether it's an art piece or a music piece or a piece of literature, can not even commiserate, can understand where I'm coming from with that. Just doing it and getting something finished is just, I, I can't explain how good it felt. Either you know that feeling or you don't. And it just, I want other people to realize that it's not instant. Even after I finished the book last year, officially in November was the last time I wrote anything to the story because everything I have to continue on is going in book 2. And now we are working on editing it because even though I feel like it's a cohesive story, it has to be formatted properly. So it really is a good feeling, Brandon. And don't push yourself. The thing that worked for me getting Axiom finished, and that is the name of the book, it's not just the name of my boyfriend, is the fact that I realized that I am not on anybody's schedule but my own. I let the ideas come to me. I let the story come like a puzzle piece, and I put it together at my leisure. Do it for the story and how it makes you feel. Do not do it for outside sources because that shit will drive you crazy and it poisons a lot of writers. You get focused on anything but the story, then how are you going to tell it? That is the best advice I can give to anybody trying to branch out to write. Just take your time and do it at your pace and don't beat yourself up on days that you are not feeling it. The worst thing I've done writing is trying to force out a story that just wasn't working. You'll hate it. Take your time. It is not a freaking sprint, it's a marathon. Somebody said it earlier that when I say stuff like that, it can be linked in everything, not just politics, and it's true. Don't push. There's no rush. Written word and storytelling is not going anywhere, y'all. And the worst thing you can do to yourself is stress over having a non-existent deadline. That's why I don't. So many people recommend me for those writing challenges. I don't want to do that. I don't need to challenge myself. I already know I know how to put words together and tell a story. Why would I put myself under stress and stress myself out mentally to tell a story? If that works for you, great. There are some people that really do benefit from stuff like that. I ain't the one. And I won't do it. Oh, yeah, music, just all of the stuff you can do to get yourself relaxed and get yourself in that headspace. I visually see the stuff I write out. I don't know if this is going to make me sound crazy to y'all or not, but I see my stories in scenes before I write them out. Like, I have a story about a woman that it's kind of like she's a spirit of vengeance that I've been working on. And some of the things in my head is how she goes through different stages of her mental illness. And I can visualize everything from when she's riding in a car with somebody or when she's actually doing an action in the story. Everything plays out like a scene before I write it out. And when you have stuff like that, it's better to just sit back and let that scene play out. Because sometimes it works in your head, and then when you write it out, it's like, man, people are going to read that and go, what? And then sometimes you come up with something really brilliant. But you got to have relaxation, take your time with it. You can't just rush that. And that's why I wanted to talk about self-reflection in this cast as well. Because a lot of people don't take the time to respect things about yourself that you think others will look down upon you about. Who cares what other people think? If you're a writer and you like the stories that you come up with, that's all that matters. Don't let what people say about your abilities conflict you on what you want to do. We let too many people give us our self-worth and value, and I've never understood that. Because people have always tried to put me down simply for existing as a full-figured black woman. So I don't let other people tell me my value. I know my worth. I don't care if you find me worthy or not. I find me worthy. When you have that attitude and take it throughout life, you will be surprised at how many doors open for you that you didn't think would, because people like confidence. And people like people who know their stuff. It isn't about having it or a look. It's about knowing your worth and not letting anybody tell you your worth. Point blank. I can't wait, Deacon. I am so excited about this because I feel like the story has so many parallels to humanity and what it means to be viewed as less than human. I wrote this story based on how it is growing up being dehumanized by something that is no fault of our own. And I think a lot of people who read Axiom will understand that parallel. I really feel like there are a lot of really good science fiction, especially by black people out there that do this job as well. But I want to add to that because I feel like a lot of people don't understand what it's like to just be hated for being born. And I wanted a story that pulled all those elements but conflicted people on what they feel about this situation and about the characters in it. And I hope I did a good job, but for me, I'm just happy to get the story out of my head, and I look forward to putting it out there. I really want people to understand that while we live in a society that reflects us to embrace our peers, to build friendship and stuff, we need to set a fine line between having peers and friends and letting our worth be judged by people who really have no reason to invest in lifting us up. There are always going to be people who are just genuinely good and nice and want to make you feel positive no matter what. But there are far more people who get their power from keeping you down and telling you you have no value. And we have to be careful of that. These are the same people that are currently worshiping a golden idol of that orange jackass. I cannot believe this, y'all. I am not going to end this cast without going on a tangent about that. I'm not a Christian. I've made that clear. My faith is tribal shamanism. I even know that Bible tale about the golden calf. That video of that CPAC, of them wielding that gold tone, because I'm pretty sure it wasn't real gold tone statue of Trump was like, why are these people trying to inspire a apocalyptic event? Y'all really out here praying for the end of the world. What is wrong with y'all? It is my job, especially given my faith, to protect this world. So it pisses me off when a whole bunch of wackadoo humans want to see all of us dying and suffering in the world going asunder. Y'all piss me off with that. That needs to stop. And having an ugly ass golden tone statue of that orange tinted asshole is why we can't sleep on the vote. Why we can't be an all or nothing, my way or the highway type when it comes to politics. Because we're not dealing with rational people. And some of these irrational people are still in our Senate and our House. And they're still running our local government. And until we get them out, we have to keep on their necks. Because they sure as hell don't mind being on our necks till we can't breathe. And we need to replace them with people who are actually going to pass legislation. It was crazy. I was horrified, and then I just busted out laughing because it's on brand. People have been saying the cult of 45 for 4 years. It's not a lie. These people are full on. They have drunk the Kool-Aid, and there is no getting them back. You can't even tell them that the sky is blue, because if Trump told them that the sky was magenta, they would believe the sky is magenta. They are beyond our help, and I am not going to waste my energy on them. The only thing I can do to potentially save their dumbasses is to elect people that will pass legislation that will help them despite themselves. Progress happens in spite of bigots. Civil rights movement, the women's movement, the LGBT movement, all of our movements should have taught you that. Progress happens whether bigots want it to or not. But it takes all of us working together, and that is what they're so afraid of. And that is what pisses me off about the left. Because every time we try to unite, we have these chaos stirrers who only want what they want and throw wrenches into it. And you make these little cliques and gatherings, and you keep us divided over the stupidest things. And I need everybody, no matter what walk of life that you identify yourself in, if you fully believe in liberalism and you believe in actual progress, you need to work together, even if you don't understand your fellow liberal, even if you don't personally agree with everything they do. I do not like every liberal. I think that shouldn't shock anybody. I'm a very angry woman. I'm a very opinionated woman. I don't gel with everybody who has a D by their name. But I support people who don't want to infringe on a fellow human's rights because they're different. That is what pragmatism is. And some of y'all will swear that you're pragmatists when you deny historical confirmations like Deb Halloran and Neera because they hurt your feels, instead of realizing that these women will get the job done. When you amplify people like Always on Camera over people like Sharice Davis, who was doing her job and doing it well, helping get that House Equality Act passed. When you say that you will not vote for somebody who can help us demilitarize the police because they're not pushing Medicare for all, you impede progress. You are not for me, and I don't want you using my issues for your cause, because I know you don't give a fuck about my life, and you definitely don't care if it matters. I need you to understand that black people see you. And it's not just black people. A lot of LGBT, especially older LGBT, who have come from the era that I talked about earlier with mass graves, see you. Women who understand, who have left abusive situations, who are tired of being gaslighted by our communities and our churches and everybody telling us that our place is behind the same man that will beat us and put a bullet in our head when they're done with us. That is the reality that so many of us have survived. So we aren't going to take your bullshit about, oh, I care about you, but you got to do as I say. Nuh-uh. Not going to work, not on our watch. And there are more of us than you, and we are organizing. And you've seen what happens when we get it together. You see what happens when our Stacys rise, when our Kamala rises, when people like me keep our voices speaking about what you need to do and what you need to focus. And we aren't stopping because we've seen what happens when people sleep on their basic duties. We had one of the best candidates for president 4 years ago lose to a man that can't even spell coffee. We cannot afford to be asleep, y'all. And I refuse to let us get to that point ever again on my watch. And I am training my son to make sure that he doesn't sleep on it. And they know they're wrong. They do. They know they're wrong. They know that everything they're pushing for is full-on fuckery. Whether it's to block nominations, whether it's to push gender constructs to insult transgender Americans, whether it's to tell black people that we should just comply even as we're being shot in our homes while sleeping. These people don't care. And then you have the other people who really don't care. They just want theirs, but try to tell me that they're my ally as long as I say what they want me to say. It's not going to happen, y'all. I am too old for this. I hopefully will have a few more years left in me, a few more decades left in me. But the older I get, the closer I get to that mortal coil running out, the less I'm going to live my life for people who don't give a fuck about me and everybody else. I don't have to like a bigot to not want them to live in a world where they can't have a house and have food in their belly. That's the difference between me and what I see is a miasma within conservatives. I don't care if they get theirs. Because them getting theirs in regards of having stabilized housing, stabilized income, food on their belly, does not negatively impact me. Their mentality negatively impacts me, but I'm hoping with proper education that actually will kill some of the future generations of that. But that's what we don't have right now. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. Unless you make a certain amount of money, your kid's not getting a proper education. And a lack of education is why we have such a easily swayed by meme type America. And until we fix that, I don't want to hear about your student loans. K through 12 is a mess. And I want to see funding allocated to the people who dedicate themselves to being teachers in spite of getting paid pennies. In spite of dealing with parents who don't give a fuck, who think that teachers are just paid babysitters for their little freaking crotch goblins. And I'm saying this as a mom. Some of y'all are ratchet and some of your babies need a backhand. Honestly. The shit I seen in my son's elementary school even. People just dropping off their kids whenever they felt like it. People fighting with the teachers because their kids didn't want to pay attention. What am I supposed to do? Invest yourself in your kid's education, you dummy. And this was all different ethnicities before people start that stereotype. I lived in a very preppy neighborhood in North Carolina called Parkwood. So it was a very blended area, and I seen that attitude from several different ethnicities. It was eye-opening and ridiculous. I also, being a proctor and a volunteer at my son's school, seen how there was less teaching the kids everyday things along with the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, of just how to take tests. Everything was tests because if they didn't pass the test, the schools didn't get funding. And it's like, what the? Really? That is the effect of that No Child Left Behind of the Bush administration. I'm telling you, y'all, education is going to be the key to our future, and it's suffering. And it's suffering not just at the college level, which, as I said before, is the ultimate cash grab. It is suffering on several levels. And it is up to us to elect people who can not only get rid of that, and yes, it is a mess, definitely get rid of No Child Left Behind, but replace it with actual funding, peer mentorship, and schools that teach beyond the standard, because we have kids that are beyond the standard. There's no reason why kids with autism should be forced into a structure that doesn't make sense to them. And they need schools that can work with the puzzle piece that they need to unlock that brilliant mind in them. My son, I love him, but there are certain things that he does that makes me question his functionality at times. And I say this with all the love because there are certain things that he just cannot, he makes more complicated than they need to be. But you ask him a question on science and he will have you for hours with sources and references and terminology that I am fascinated by, because that is what he loves. And when you break things down, I've got him to do chores using science. I am teaching him how to cook using science, because that is his puzzle piece. And he needs a school that nurtures that aspect. But we don't have that. And it's a shame, because we could get funding for that if we could elect officials that see the need in that. But I'm fighting the uphill battle because I live in a state that, even though it's far up in the north, there are people that have freaking Dixie flags. This is what I say. You can't be all or nothing in politics, because we're not that kind of society. We have to move and shake. We have to compromise, and we have to navigate ignorance, bigotry, and all kinds of fuckery. And if you don't understand that, you are going to be sitting at the political kiddie table, making demands that nobody's going to listen to, because we're not here for your nonsense. Yes, they did. I remember going to school, and even though we had certain standardized tests, we had all kinds of extracurriculum, even in elementary school. Music classes, home economics, art, actual art classes outside the classroom in a whole separate area with easels where you could paint, where you could sketch. I remember being able to go outside during an art lesson, gather leaves for leaf sketching. They don't do stuff like that in a lot of schools anymore unless they're privatized and paid for. And a lot of those schools are only for really rich people. And a lot of those schools are run as parochial and don't even teach kids anything but propaganda. So we have a lot of work to do, and we cannot do that if you're not willing to invest even that little bit of yourself in casting a ballot. It all matters. And your inaction is just as detrimental to progress as the actions of people who are full on ready to drag us back to the Jim Crow days and beyond. Because when you don't vote, you tell them that you're A-OK with their behavior, even if you claim you're not. Because you're not doing the one thing you could do to stop them from having power. It really is that simple, y'all. And woo, I ran overtime, but I had so much fun tonight just talking with y'all. I love doing this. I am going to do this every Friday if I can. And if I'm not feeling it because of health reasons, I will let you know ahead of time. But so far, so good, y'all. And that's amazing, Deacon. I think you and me and your mom would definitely get along, because I really believe in education. I believe it's always the key to everything. It is so important to keep learning. That's what our brains are for. You might not be at a genius level, but you're taking in new information. And we live in a day and age where you can learn things. There's an app for everything now. There is no excuse not to continue to learn new stuff or things that you thought you might not have been able to. You want to learn how to play a musical instrument, but you never did as a child? Learn it now. Who is stopping you but you? Education is our path to progress, and I will never stop saying that. But I'm gonna wrap it up for tonight. I went into overtime, but that's okay. I had such a good time. Thank you to everybody who participated in the chat. Thank you to everybody who continuously supports this show. I really do appreciate all the feedback, all the interactions on here and on Twitter. And I will be putting out another video tomorrow, the first of the series about paganism throughout history and how to walk the path. So be on the lookout for that. But I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to go heat up my dinner because I'm getting hangry, y'all. And I will see some of y'all later on Twitter. And I will see you in a few minutes. Axiom, I love you. Good night.